All right, so with that, I'm excited to introduce several people real quick, actually. So first off, Alex Osterwalder, who's here, like I said, from Switzerland. I'm really glad that he took the time out of his schedule to meet with us. I had to pack all the books. He's got 5 books. You can actually get a box set. It's awesome, freaking awesome. I think everybody knows, from back in the day, business model generation, the business model canvas that inspired a lot of other canvases since then. It was the original OG canvas, and then value proposition design, testing business ideas. We actually have Mr. David Bland, the co-author of that, here today. He's going to jump in and help out with present some of the stuff today too, I think. And then high impact tools for team, and the most recent book, Invincible Company, which is the one we gave away. And so Alex is going to be talking to us today. We talked about different topics about basically breaking down silos, how product teams can partner effectively with leadership. And we have another special guest here today, which is Richard Naramore, who's actually the editor from Wiley, who published the books here and published my book as well. So since he happens to be in town, I'm going to give him a chance to say a few words and introduce Alex as well. So come on up, Richard. Thanks a lot.
So just very briefly, it's really a privilege to be here, and we have 4 of the probably top 10 or 20 best-selling authors in the product space in the room. So Alex's book, Business Model Generation, has probably sold about 2 million copies by now, translated into 40 languages. David Bland, his co-author on testing business ideas, that's been incredibly influential. That's probably sold 100,000 copies by now. We have Christina Wadke over here, and I'm not going to go into details, but your books have been influential and important in the space. And then Dan Olsen, and I could just say a paragraph about Dan. I published his book, The Lean Product Playbook, and I was excited about it because Eric Ries's book, The Lean Startup, had come out, and it was doing very well, but people were saying, well, how do you implement this? And so Dan and I connected over his proposal for a book on that topic. And what you really want as a book publisher, you don't want a book that sells well in the first year and then dies out. You want what we call a backlist book, which sells year after year after year. And every time Dan called me to ask about the sales of his book, I kept, looking for the downward slope, and it just kept going and even upward a little bit. So there's very few authors that write a book of the quality that people recognize year after year. It's going to help them do their job. So that's the Lean Product Playbook. I'm proud to have published that. And then moving on to the main event, Alex Osterwalder, like Dan said, Business Model Generation, one of the most influential books on entrepreneurship, in the last 30 years. And it's been a real privilege to work with Alex on 5 of his books. And, I publish, I'm now with Stanford University Press. I was previously with Wiley. And so I publish academics. And what I really want is to help get the best ideas out of academia and into the world. And Business Model Generation was based on Alex's PhD thesis, and you would never know it. I mean, the book is so engaging and 4-color and beautiful, and Alex has this entrepreneurial ability to be relentlessly creative and think about the customer. And so I'm excited to hear what he's going to share with you all.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Richard. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Richard. What Richard didn't say is I can be a pain in the ass when we work on books. Okay, so don't hesitate to interrupt me whenever you have questions, whenever you believe I'm wrong. Fine, we can always have a debate because there's not one truth. We're not talking about science here. And talking about PhD, the business model canvas, I don't know if you know, but we called it the business model ontology first. So you use words like that to get a PhD, and then when you work with business people, you want to avoid words like ontology, right? So we called it the business model canvas. Now, the way that actually happened for the backstory is I had a consulting firm with a friend with Stefano, right? High impact tools for teams. And we were working with private banks and helping them innovate. Yeah, actually happened, Swiss private banks innovating. And we were working on their business models. So we put up this model with boxes and arrows, like academics do. And we said, how are we going to use this in a workshop? So we just drew lines between the boxes, and that was the business model canvas. So that's how it was born. from a concept towards a tool that you can use to put up sticky notes. And the whole value of these kind of tools is the visual aspect of creating a shared language. So I'll talk about that a little bit. But what I want to do is I'm going to zoom from here right out to the bigger picture about organizational stuff. So mostly the work I do now is with large companies, and we try to help them innovate. Innovation is bottom up, but without the top-down support and systems, it doesn't actually work. It's bottom up, top down. And the problem is sometimes top down and bottom up are completely disconnected, so people still build stuff nobody wants, which I can't really understand why you would still do that, knowing all the methodologies. Okay, so just very quickly, some statistics. So innovation ranks top really for all, like 80% of companies. 40% of CEOs think their business model is going to expire. But here's where it gets interesting. 20% of companies, and this was 2021, I don't think it changed that much. There's a gap between ambition of wanting to innovate, coming up with new value propositions, and the ability to do it. And I didn't know that much about product management until we started working with a partner. Strategizer partnered with a bigger company called Emergent. And then I all of a sudden realized, oh, that's the bridge between innovation and product management. I'm going to go into that. And that's where we also see some of those gaps. I am going to do some exercises. One is with a mobile phone, but there's also, I think, maybe I still have a paper exercise. So I don't know, you're going to need paper or pen or iPad or phone, doesn't matter. Something to scribble. I think I kept this one in. I'm going to talk about 3 things. First one is this whole idea that we need to manage what we have and explore at the same time. Explore and exploit. And we're going to start with this because this is actually the biggest problem. That companies are optimized to execute. And everything that looks different, innovation, new products, is just a different world. It's very hard, right? So we might know it at the product world, but then the higher you go up, the more this is a black box. Then I'm going to talk about this ability to kill ideas early on in the funnel. How many of you have ever worked on a product where the team already knew this is not going to work? Nobody's really going to want this, or we're definitely not going to deliver the numbers. Who's been on product teams like that? Right? So you're all smart people. Why did you build shit that nobody wants? Come on, tell me. Well, management told us so. Right? I see it going, well, we're not the stupid ones, the ones up there. But so there's a disconnect, and it's not because these people are stupid, it's because the system is broken. Okay? So it doesn't have to do with smart or not, but these are people who decide and execute, and the innovation world is a bit, a black box still. And then I'm going to end. Actually, David is going to present a wonderful case, and then I'm going to show you how we use that kind of stuff to create evidence-based leaders. So on the product level, we know how to make evidence-based decisions. At least we try pretty hard. But leadership needs to learn how to do that as well. That's the top-down part. Make sense? Okay. If you're not interested in this, don't hesitate to walk out. Or interrupt me, saying, Alex. Okay, first one. So any product, any business, any startup, any innovation starts with an idea. Could be technology, could be a market opportunity. We go and search for a value proposition, business model, or solution, and then we scale and manage that thing. And it becomes a real business or business unit or a product that works. Now, these two worlds, as you know, are very different. This, the more innovative we are, the more messy it is. And we'll make a lot of mistakes and we'll learn. When we get here, we start hating messy stuff and mistakes, so we manage it. Now, these two worlds are fundamentally different. And this is a slide I show to senior leaders all the time because they kind of know it, but they can't put words on it. And the moment you say, hey, this is the world of managing, this is the world of innovation. And if you apply the KPIs, the key performance indicators, culture, and processes of this world to this world, you just killed innovation. So these two worlds, they don't live in harmony. And leaders can't really put words on this until you start to explain it. So we're going to look at this whole range from explore to exploit, but we're going to start with something that's going to be very easy for you, a little competition. And there are 2 rounds, and we're going to compete for access to chocolate heaven. So I bought not just Swiss chocolate that you'll find in the supermarket, but I brought Sprüngli, okay? Sprüngli. Who knows Sprüngli? Okay, good, right? There you go. Anybody who says Belgian chocolate is better than Swiss chocolate just has never tried this, okay? So let's go. Get ready. Compete for Swiss chocolate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a term, and you are going to tell me, does it go in explore, exploit, or both, okay? Does it belong into innovation, that's explore, into exploit, managing the existing, or both? And we have 3 questions first, and then another 3 questions afterwards, okay? We'll have an overall winner of that. So, ready? Let's go. First one's pretty easy. And speed matters. Business plans and business cases, same thing, are a useful tool for exploration, exploitation, or both. Business cases or business plans with spreadsheets are a great tool for explore, exploit, or both. Okay, so this is correct. Business plans and business cases are excellent execution tools. This is wrong. So we have 7 managers in the room who still ask for business cases. Look at that, you're even laughing. And normally my jokes are really bad, but yeah, you'll get a taste of that as well. But so, and you have another 7 people who also got that wrong. So when we're in innovation, the bolder the idea, the more a business plan will maximize the risk of failure. Why? Because we invest in a fantasy, and in a fantasy spreadsheet, and we execute a fantasy. So we won't be able to iterate and pivot anymore, and we won't be able to kill the idea. So business plans and business cases are the death penalty of innovation. Does that mean we shouldn't make spreadsheets? Absolutely not. But we need to find evidence to support the spreadsheets in the business case over time. Do you see the difference? Super important. Now that sounds trivial, but when you start to explain this to leaders, they get it. Because companies that still work with business cases and business plans for innovative ideas just drives me nuts. Okay, next one. Answer fast to get more points. Speed points here. Embracing failure is crucial in explore, exploit, or both. Fail fast. This is an easy one. If there's anybody who gets this one wrong, you can leave the room. Okay. Okay, 4 people. So now, of course, it's not as black and white, but the point is, when you're managing a supply chain, you're managing your website, there is no downtime. So failure is not a good thing. You avoid it. Do we desire failure over here? Absolutely not, but we need to deal with it. And the whole idea is that we manage it well. And I'll show you how today we can get really good at managing that risk, quantifying it even. Okay, because it's not enough to say, oh, we do Lean Start, we make MVPs. That is like 10 years ago that was good. Today it's not enough. We need to measure risk because if you lead a company, I'm a CEO, I want to see metrics. So we need to measure the reduction of risk and uncertainty, okay? So good failure, bad failure. Okay, intermediary, just to see who has a target on their back. Okay, looks like Raul. Raul, you have a target on your back. Okay, everybody's hunting Raul now. Okay, 1 question, and then we do some more content. And later at the end, we have another 3 questions. Let's hunt Raul. Analysis helps reduce risk in analyzing a product, a project. Analyzing helps reduce risk in exploration, exploitation, or both. Analyzing, sitting down, thinking hard. Is this the right solution? Okay, so this is a bit controversial, right? But here's the thing. Analysis is not a bad thing, but it will not reduce the risk of building something nobody wants. Because if you don't have the data, You can analyze as much as you want. It's fantasy land. Do you follow me on this? So it's good to do, but it won't reduce risk, because that's what the question is about. What reduces risk? Talking to people, making MVPs, all of that stuff, okay? But that is not analysis. That's experimentation, which is normal for us, but framed that way, we need to make sure everybody understands, okay? Because in companies, in startups less the case, because you have so much pressure to go fast, you don't have time to analyze. Sometimes actually so fast that we just do other shit. But in large companies, there's so much time, if I can generalize, that we tend to overanalyze. We will think about a thing for a week. Think about it for 4 hours. It's enough. Okay, so very quickly, so you can already see the disconnects between Exploit Explorer. Raul, it looks like you're still ahead, but we have speed points here. So another 3 questions, so tight. But since you're first in the first round, you will get some Swiss chocolate. Here you go. Okay, so far, leading. Okay. Yeah, of course, you get Swiss chocolate, you drop everything, of course. So here's, again, this is really important, what I show to leaders, and this is where the disconnect happens. And maybe even for you, there's something here interesting to think about. So uncertainty, when we're managing a business, we know the customers, we know the products, we know the supply chain. Uncertainty is relatively low. It's not zero because, yeah, we went through COVID. So there is no zero uncertainty. But we can plan and execute. So here analysis is good. The newer the stuff we're working on, completely different value propositions, well, the less predictable it is, which sounds trivial, but we don't design processes this way that here we can analyze, we can plan, we can make big investments. Here we can't. So this is not trivial to leaders. That's where the disconnect happens. So what does that mean? For investments, over here, you make large bets. In particular, a large company, you want a large return, you make big bets, so you get big return. Over here, that's the worst thing you could do at the beginning. Who of you has ever seen a lighthouse project for a completely new value proposition where the company invested a lot? Who's seen that? And how did that work out? You're already laughing, right? Because companies burn a lot of money. So what you really want to do is start small with small investments. There's a disconnect between I need big returns. I'm Nestle, I'm whatever. I need to make big investments. Yes, but not at the beginning. Okay? So there's a point where you scale investments, which is normal when we're in startups and venture capital. In large companies, we don't really get this. So we need to start doing this more. And what does this also mean? We need to kill projects. In the startup world with VC money, that happens automatically. We don't kill them, we just don't give them money anymore. In large companies, people go and hunt for money because they have the right connections, and they shouldn't get money. And we're really bad at killing projects. Who's in a company where it's hard to kill stuff? Okay? This is super important. Now that means for leaders, over here we ask, are we on time, on budget? Is everything going as planned? Over here, we ask, what did we learn? Again, sounds trivial. But all of you who had your hand up, you were working on something nobody wants. Why did that happen? Because we applied this to this. So this seems trivial. It's not. Now, sometimes we say, oh, people ask me, where does innovation live? Somewhere, in a basement with no windows? No. But it's not just this. It's the dual mindset. So if you're a CEO in a company, you need to be able to think like this when you're working with a supply chain team, and 5 minutes later you're working with a new product team or innovation team, you need to act like this. So in the head, leaders need to be able to switch. Not all leaders, but most, because if you're managing a supply chain, somebody comes over and wants to do an experiment, right, Dave? I'm sure you've seen this. People come over here. Oh, no, I can't do this low batch with no quality, and no, not. But they don't understand here we're talking a different world. Do you see the disconnect between these two worlds? So this looks simple, because that's the kind of stuff we like to do at Strategizer, make it simple. But in companies, we don't often distinguish this dual mindset enough. In particular, senior leaders, this is new stuff to them. Make sense? Okay, so that's how we need to manage. And academics, just like I use the word ontology, academics use the word ambidextrous organization. Okay? So it's the ability to do both at the same time. This is not new theory, but in practice, it's still very rare to see companies that are able to do both things well, okay, in harmony.
Everything starts with an idea. Even the largest companies were once startups searching for a business model. When startups find their model, they scale and transform it into a mature company. They shift from an entrepreneurial mindset to a managerial mindset. We call these two fundamentally different worlds explore and exploit. Companies must manage both at the same time, a portfolio of existing businesses and a portfolio of new opportunities. The exploit portfolio helps you manage what you have by looking at the return on the one hand and the death and disruption risk on the other. Here you scale emerging business models, renovate declining ones, or make successful ones more resilient. You bolster your exploit portfolio with the following portfolio actions. Bring in outside business models through acquisitions, mergers, partnerships, or investments. Improve existing business models, shifting them from outdated to superior models. Remove business models that don't fit your strategy through divestitures or by dismantling them altogether. Yet, managing what you have is not enough in times of disruption. Even the best business models expire like a yogurt in the fridge. Avoid obsolescence and proactively develop and explore a portfolio of bold initiatives. Your search for growth engines requires two main activities. Increase the expected return by designing better business models. Reduce the innovation risk through rigorous testing. Adapt ideas based on evidence from the field until a value proposition and business model emerge. You manage your Explorer portfolio with the following portfolio actions. Ideate and test your own business model and value proposition ideas, or invest in outside ventures, or do both. Once you start testing ideas with experiments, the evidence will suggest the path. Persevere and gather stronger evidence. Pivot and adapt the idea a little or a lot. Retire it entirely because the evidence indicates it won't work. To scale a tested and de-risked idea, transfer it to your exploit portfolio or spin it out if it doesn't fit your strategy. When in exploration, know that you can't pick the winner. Early on, good and bad ideas are indistinguishable. The only way to truly identify the winners is by investing small amounts of money in a large number of projects. Retire ideas that can't produce evidence and invest in those showing traction. Want a larger return? You'll need more projects in your innovation funnel. Use the
Okay, so same applies to products. Okay, I like business models because at the end of the day, we're not building products, we're building businesses or growth engines, right? So we tend to over-focus just on product when we're still trying to make more money than we spend. So this dual mindset is not something that is really strong in most companies. But it means, okay, here we're improving a business model or we're tweaking a product. If we do not know the customer extremely well or it's a new value proposition, it goes down here. So these things change. Now, this is what we need to manage. And the logic here is different from the logic up there. Make sense? Okay. Who in their company sees already a disconnect of these two worlds? That this is stuff you're facing almost every day. Hands up. Okay? Who has leaders that really understand this and manages extremely well? Okay, good. So you can come and give the rest of the talk. I'll sit down and eat some Swiss chocolate. This is a real challenge, real challenge. And this is what we try to put in place in organizations, this idea of a dual mindset with two portfolios, okay? Now, what we're going to look at is three examples actually, I think. Three examples of where they really made this work and where they're really good at killing ideas. And I'm not sure, maybe some of you who have watched some of my talks online, you've seen this example. Who already knows the Bosch example? Not too many, yeah. Good. Okay, so let's use this. They built a business model accelerator. And some people ask, oh, Alex, so we need to build an accelerator. It doesn't matter how you call it. It's the principles behind this. So what's interesting is how they did it, not the vehicle itself. So Uwe, who built this thing, He's going to ask you a question, and then I want you to quickly discuss. I'm going to show you how they did it, but what they came up with.
Hi there, my name is Uwe Kirschner. I'm from Bosch Management Consulting. I'm partner for Business Model Innovation, and it's a pleasure to be the Invincible Company of the Month. What you see here is Bosch's research center in Renningen near Stuttgart. It represents Bosch's history, present, and certainly also the future. Traditionally, our organization has been very successful in the development of new technologies and new products. And certainly, this will also remain so in the future. In the year 2015, something very important happened. Our board of management decided to set up a competence center for business model innovation. The challenge was clear. We had to test many innovation ideas in a fast and capital efficient way. We wanted to find the very few innovation projects which have the potential to scale. Now the question to you, in order to reach that number of 19 innovation projects successfully exiting our Bosch Accelerator program, how many projects entered the validation phase? 19 innovation projects, 43, 108, 214, or even 926. What are your thoughts?
So, German, extremely conservative company, and they were starting to do this, and they wanted to come up with something like 20 winners. The question is, over 3 years, how many projects did they invest in to create 19 winners? I want you to quickly discuss, but so you don't immediately go to 926, because that might be what they should do. Look at the math. And I'm not even looking at the full investment, just the early stage, right? So if you say 5, it means this German conservative company invested over 100 million euro, which would be 110 million euro, would be like 130 million US dollars, something like that. And that to get 20 winners. That's a lot of money burnt to get 20 winners, right? So I want you to discuss, did they, hey, we're Germans, we're conservative, like Nestle would do this. Swiss company, they'd say, why would I invest in any losers? I want the winners, right? So 30 seconds, discuss with your seat neighbor. What do you think they went for? Did they go for this one, this one, this one, this one, or this one? The lower down you go, the more money they lose. Okay? Let's go. 30 seconds, 30 seconds. How many they invested in to get 19 winners? Okay, let's see together. Who says they're like Nestle? They would go for 19. And nobody, of course, I primed you already. You would say 43. Hey, come on. Yeah? No? You've been to Germany, right? So, who would say 108? Okay. Who would say 214? Okay, you're bold. You've never been to Germany, never talked to Germans. Who would say 926? Well, you're out of your mind. Well, they were pretty bold because they understood. So Uwe did his work with the leadership to show how innovation works. It wasn't 926. So I believe, given the size of the company, they should go for that. Okay? Because the bigger the return you want, the more you need to invest in. And in early stage venture capital, do you know how many companies you need to invest in to get outliers with a 50x return on capital? 4 out of 1,000. 4 out of 1,000. And that's 50x on capital. That's not even revenue. Like they need to make revenue. Like, you know, there's a difference between valuation and actually real money. A bit less these days, but it changed. It changed at least a little bit in the right direction. Okay, so let's listen to Uwe.
Yes, you're right. 214 innovation projects entered our validation engine, our Bosch Accelerator program. You've probably read the book, right? Let me give you some additional information around these 214 innovation projects which entered our Bosch Accelerator program. Phase 1 has an average duration of 3 months, including prep time. The average budget is 120,000 euros per team, and this already includes the personnel costs. After a very short period of time, and as I said, 3 months, we are able to successfully terminate 65% of all innovation projects. The remaining projects, in numbers 74, continued their journey in phase 2 of our program. The average team has a budget of 300,000 euros, and again, this includes on one hand side the personnel costs, but also the costs for the development and iteration of the MVP. And again, at the end of phase 2, a high number of innovation projects can be successfully terminated. We believe it's very important to ask the teams themselves whether they believe they're a go or no-go at the end of phase 1 and also at the end of phase 2 of the program. Because this really brings responsibility to teams, and this also certainly drives cultural change in an organization. The go criteria, which we derive out of most recent methods and tools, are the foundation for a proper decision whether a team should stop or continue their journey. The success rate of the Bosch Accelerator program is around 10%, meaning that only 10% of the innovation projects are successfully exiting our Bosch Accelerator program. Now, you might argue that's a low number.
Okay, so super important that they here say, well, we have 214 teams that can start, so they allow everybody to start. But after 3 months, they have very clear directive. They need to show evidence of customer jobs, pains, and gains. Now in their case, I think a bit simplistic, they said customers have a problem. We now are a little bit more sophisticated. This is an older case, okay? But it's a nice one that's public with numbers. So 3 months, mainly salary costs. And here's the big one. They do not build anything. Because often when we ask people, oh, do you have this kind of process? Yeah, we make MVPs. How much do you spend? 500,000. Like, number one, you don't need to build something to start experimenting. I'm sure you've said that more than once. People love to build. Why? Because they're engineers and scientists who think, but there's also this myth, you need to build something to test. That's not the first thing. This sounds very trivial, like, wow, we could talk to customers, we could do stuff where we really get first evidence. So at the end, what did he say? Who decides if they will go on or not? The teams have a strong say. You know why? Because they have a very clear indication of what they need to bring to the table in terms of evidence. There's a 90% overlap between the team recommendation and what management says. Because management also was trained to decide based on evidence, not based on what they like. So this is the first disconnect that they plugged. Do you see the difference? So here, you will not go on if there's nothing there. And they killed 65% of projects. These go on, and now they start building stuff. 300,000 euros, a bit more, right? And then again, 74% of projects are terminated. And the important thing to manage is that nobody looks stupid, because this is how the process works. Now, if you come from Silicon Valley, you know that this is the way the venture world works, right? You have seed funding, and then you have A/B, that's just how it works. But in companies, this is not very common yet. So every company has whatever accelerator, and then you ask, how many do you kill? And they look at you and they, what? Kill projects? And now for business models, it's a bit more extreme than for products, but it's very similar. Okay, so if you have no kill rate, what does that mean? Teams are condemned to succeed. What's going to happen? Zombie projects, or you play it safe. So you get one of two. Zombie projects, they go on, they find funding, or you just change the division, you work for another team. All of a sudden, they just go on. Zombie projects are really bad because they consume resources. There's all resource allocation. Yeah?
So my question for you is,
Yeah.
Yes. So a lot of the teams are measured on like bonuses in terms of what did I deliver,
Yeah.
whether you're a developer, product,
Yeah.
marketing, sales.
100%. Yeah.
And now it's almost like it's my proof of concept baby, or whatever you want to call it. Now management sets some KPIs in place.
Yeah.
And my team that I'm leading is not meeting the criteria. So now I won't be getting that bonus anymore.
Yeah, well,
and I'm going to be pushing for my project because I think it's right.
Yeah.
For personal reasons too.
Yeah. But if you don't have evidence, it doesn't matter what you think, because your opinion doesn't matter. The leader's opinion doesn't matter. It's the evidence that matters, not your KPIs, your personal career KPIs. But it does mean, and you're bringing up a super important point, if you do not have all the metrics for HR aligned with this, it's not going to happen. But this is how they manage it. So people come from over here, and this is a bit different. So we're a bit further from the pure product management world, and I'll get that connection back. Yeah, people coming from here, they come over and they start this. Anybody can start something new. Anybody can be an innovator. Not everybody should, but it doesn't really matter because they get eliminated anyways. And in management, we think we can pick. That's a big mistake. In the product world, we need more of this as well. And this might come before we actually get into real product management. So this is very early stage, right? This is the front stage. So the further we go on this side, the more we actually need to build and execute. And then then it might be revenue. This is often pre-revenue. But there is a point where we should have the same kind of metrics and be willing to kill. Zombie projects should not exist in companies because really bad resource allocation. It's rarely a money problem, it's a resource allocation problem. You see? And then here's where it gets interesting. This is what I learned getting into this partnership with Emergent. So their CEO, Alex Adamopoulos, he had this vision, Strategizer and Emergent should come together. They invested in us. And I didn't really get it at the beginning. He said it's the full range, from innovation all the way to product management. So remember that slide here, where we go from left to right? So here is innovation. And the more we go over here, the more we're into product management. Product management is this range, right? There's a part where you're coming up with new stuff. But then there's also this product management stuff where it's not always clear, is it innovation, is it product management? So I didn't put these two together. It's so trivial. But it's not, because people do not yet connect these two worlds. Do you see what the problem is here? And now the bigger problem is, so you have teams here who have the mandate to build something because somebody up here, ever seen this? Somebody up here wants this to be built. And then this team here is agile, and we learn, we do the whole thing. And then we learn, we need to kill this. What's the problem? This link was cut. And then you have the incentive to build. So we need to align this, this, and this. So when we come in, we actually build governance structures with KPIs here, and we build the bridge between innovation and more with product management. See how this works? So we do this stuff on the ground. You do great work here if you're in product management, but you can iterate as much as you want. You still have the mandate to execute, right? That's a pity, yeah. Yeah, Mike. Okay.
I'm curious, in companies like Bosch, what happens with the terminated initiatives? Is it just forgotten? Is it put into?
They go back. So the teams go back. But here's also the thing, and I don't know how this is the case with Bosch, but the other companies we work with, they shelve these things, and then later on, it could be that the context has changed, right? Yeah. So it doesn't mean the worst thing, and who's ever seen, I think you joke about this sometimes, who's ever seen a leader say, oh, we did that, didn't work? Who's ever seen that? And I don't want to be sarcastic, because I'm a CEO as well, and my team probably makes jokes of me as well. But so the thing you need to learn is the environment can change, so the second time you run an experiment, maybe 4 years later, it can work. But then the really smart companies, think Netflix, what did they do? They wanted to do streaming. That was the vision. But they also knew, they were smart enough to know they couldn't get there, so they did DVD by mail and they did phases. But so yes, you shelve these projects and you might come back to them. The other aspect, by the way, that's where I think product teams and leaders are not good enough, is we forget that some products might work with the right business model. what happens, let me see if I have this exercise. I do, so I'll come back to that in a second. Okay, so now, these are big numbers, so let me just show you smaller numbers. So here's a small company that did this in Switzerland, Laura Star. They are a family business today managed by Mike and Julie, and they're in the business of making steam irons, okay? They make high-end steam irons, export them around the world, and then they said, we want to innovate. What's our core? Steam. Let's make a handheld steamer. So they built something. They didn't do lean, they didn't experiment, they built it. But then they realized we might have, forgotten to look at the business model and testing. So they went back. I'll show you what they came up with, and then I'll show you how they did this.
Hello, I'm Iggy. I steam and purify all your fabrics. With my ultra-powerful dry microfine steam, I instantly steam your clothing. I also purify your fabrics by eliminating bacteria and dust mites, and I reduce the risk of allergies. Efficient, even for items that aren't washed in the washing machine. I'm portable and...
So this was at the beginning of COVID, and they're not big enough to do 200 projects, right? So they started with 14 ideas, but they just had enough bandwidth to explore 3. A handheld steamer like that, COVID, super powerful for hotels, in general, for hospitals. So they went and did some of this discovery, and then they ended up with a handheld steamer for the mass market that wasn't just focused on your clothes, but also on the bacteria, et cetera. Now that seems trivial, but it's actually a fundamentally different business model for them. We would say, oh, it's just, a slightly different product. No, the business model is different. Distribution is different. The direct to consumer, the stuff they need to handle with returns, everything is different. So it's not crazy business model innovation like you go from building hotels to Airbnb, but this is business model innovation that happens everywhere. Okay, make sense? Okay, so this is just to quickly show the disconnect. Let me skip this example. And I'll go to, we don't have paper, right? Who of you has at least something to draw? Who does, oh, look at that. Wow. Do we have, excellent. Okay, so what we're going to do, you can distribute the paper. What I want us to do is look at this first phase. Yeah, paper and a pen, yeah. Now, paper alone won't be enough. We need something to scribble as well. I don't know if there's a... Okay, so while we're getting ready, here. We want to go from idea to real business. Okay, we want to go from idea to real business. What are the 2 tasks, either for product or for business model? What are the 2 main tasks? One is business design. We need to come up with a value proposition for a product or business model if we're a startup, okay? So we ideate, all this stuff that we talked about, right? We come up with business prototypes, we assess, and then we either go and test or we stay in this loop, business design, okay? Now, obviously, David is going to talk to us a little bit about one nice example. But now, here, in this side, if we're up here, so let me quickly go for this, experimentation, learning, and decision making, we go through this all the time, okay? You're familiar with this process. We need to go through these 2. Now, in companies, we kind of overestimate the analysis part. It's not that we don't need this, but we should go faster. Now, we came up with a business model canvas and the value proposition canvas for this. But there's a challenge. There's a challenge when people try to think new value propositions and new business models. And to show you what that challenge is, I'm going to do a 10-second exercise with you. I'm going to teach you product innovation and business model innovation in 10 seconds. Since you already know a lot about this, is fine. Okay, so I want you to be able to draw. So you're going to draw something. I'd like you to not talk while we do the exercise, okay? Do not talk, because you're going to be tempted to talk. Are you ready? In 5 seconds, I'd like you to draw a small house. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stop. Okay? Now, I'd like you to, without talking, give your paper, or sorry if you did it on the phone, give it to somebody around you, but do not talk yet. That other person is going to continue the exercise, okay? You just hand over your phone or the paper, please. Okay? Quick, 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 quick. Okay, next 5 seconds. In the next 5 seconds, I want you to decorate the house and the surroundings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stop. Now, I'd like you to show the houses to each other. Okay, now you can talk. Show the houses to each other, people around you. Okay. So, who of you have something like this, maybe with a tree beside it? Who came up with this? Who has something radically different? Like radically different. Aren't you supposed to be innovative over here? Well, you're like Swiss or Germans, even worse. Okay, so all of you drew this, and some of you probably made a small drawing. I said a small house, not a small drawing. Who of you made a small drawing? For ants. Okay, so one person here. Can I see? I need proof. Does it look different?
No, it's not a good ant, but it's.
Yeah, you made up this story afterwards. No. Like, the house looks like that, and he just said it's for ants. Okay,
That's
but
innovation.
that's innovation. Well, not really.
Marketing.
That's selling to a VC. You know, here's my thing. But you came up with the same drawing, right? So here's the thing. We have a mental model of, obviously I tricked you into this. We have a mental model of what a small house is. And here's the challenge in products, and even worse in business models. We have a mental model of what the business model for stuff is. And sometimes, and here just want to invite you as product people, sometimes products can only become profitable with a different business model. And if you're in a company, guess what you're going to do? You're going to take the business model of your company or your industry and like a stamp, new product, pah! Right? You're going to come up with that. And it's very rare, talking about Apple, when they launched the iPod, that was the first time different business model in collaboration with record companies and all that, right? That's the beginning of the iPhone. But it's very rare that people think beyond. So what we need to be able to do is throw away our mental models. I think this, in particular for product, I think we're way too product focused. We should think new business models. Or my favorite example is the first photocopying machine. Anybody remember how that thing was called? Anybody was born? The Xerox 914, right? So that machine was so expensive and did something nobody really ever saw, like photocopies, that they couldn't bring it into the market, so they had to come up with a model leasing the thing and then charging for the photocopies. They could have never launched that product without a different business model. Okay, so you want to think about these things up front. Anyways, I'm getting away from the product talk stuff, but we need to do things differently. So just a quick example of, I really believe in doing what I say. So I can't write on business model innovation without doing business model innovation. So when we launched business model generation, we did it with a different business model. We got people to pay us to write the book, which is not normally how you do it. We self-published, and then we sold it to Wiley. And Richard, actually, you saw, how was the story?
I saw it on Amazon. It was selling surprisingly well for a self-published book.
Yeah.
So I picked it.
Yeah. And then we actually went through a whole process, and we worked with Richard because he was the one who paid attention. Now, for our company, same thing. So I always wanted to kind of build a software company. Had no clue, made all the mistakes you can make, burnt a lot of money. Not VC money, it was my own. That's my Swiss chalet, my beach house, all gone. It's all in the company, but we're still alive. Now it's actually happening. So we said, we don't want a consulting company, but we kind of did make one. So what we charged for so far is a fee for companies to come to us, and we would help them through that process, right? Like with Bosch. And they would hire us as consultants. That's all they would see. But we got them to run through a program on our platform since 2019 to go through this. Now we said, okay, now this year, what we're doing is we're telling them, you don't need us as consultants anymore. You should do this yourself, or even third-party consultants. all you need to do is pay us here for the license fee. So we're self-disrupting, changing the product, unbundling it. And then the last phase, actually, why am I drawing this? Because I've made a slide for this. So programs on platform. So we run these programs to get teams through it, but once we leave, they can do it on their own. And we said, okay, these are innovation programs. But innovation is the crappiest industry you can be in because there's no money, there's no power. So what if we make the platform so good that companies can coach on their own and they can design their own programs? So that's where we're going, and guess why? Because this is ultra scalable. And in this whole process, we've been testing, iterating, right? So we live this whole thing, not just on the product level, but on the business model level. I think in the product world, we underestimate how much we should also think business models. Okay? And obviously, we can't always be part of that conversation, but we should push for it. Yeah?
Were you really intentional about it from the beginning, or you thought that it's a problem to scale, and then you said, these are my assets, so then I'm going to go with the plan?
From the beginning. Now, why did it take us really long is because my co-founders and I were terrible managers, and we never built a startup. So we made every single mistake you can make building a software company. We made it. We wasted so much money. Can't even imagine, like not VC money, our own. Millions. But we stuck to scaling some of the stuff that worked, and we scaled some off. And we actually didn't kill fast enough, or didn't realize we needed to change something in management. And 2 days ago, I was with Steve Blank. Who's heard of Steve Blank, right? Started the whole lean startup movement. And I never really understood the difference between a creator and an entrepreneur. So we created a lot of stuff. We went to a couple of million, but we never scaled anything. So every time we got to a couple of million, I thought, let's do another thing. So that's the difference between a creator, like this type of entrepreneurship. But we were intentional, and the direction was, the vision was the same. We started with an iPad app to test a bit, then we went to web app, and then we just screwed up for a while. While we scaled this, I didn't pay attention to the software part. And then a couple of years back, I really paid attention again. Then what we realized here, and this came out of testing, is that companies don't want, at least back then, they didn't want software. What they wanted was programs. And I'll tell you about the mistake. I'm super transparent about the mistakes I made or we made. I did not have, for going from this phase to this phase, I did not have an explorer team. So while I was teaching Explore Exploit, I did not put enough people. I mean, we were 50, right? So it's also hard. Now I have 2 full-time people who do pure commercial exploration to figure out pricing. And then the product team, since we work with Emergent, they work on product. So here's an interesting thing maybe for you. We have 2 tracks. Since we already had this in the field and we were using our platform, we had a product team working on features. And then over here, because we started to sell the licenses separately, unbundling, we have an Explorer team now of 2 people who are just looking. I banned them from product management because they all wanted to get into product. Everybody loves going into product. I said, don't do that. Spend time on figuring out which of the 6 segments can actually scale fastest. So this, again, it's this idea also product teams and Explorer teams need to collaborate. There's a disconnect there. You see what I'm talking about? Not everybody in product needs to be an explorer, in particular when you have something that's already kind of working, but you're exploring new aspects of that product and value proposition. Make sense? OK. So I won't go into how this sprint looks like, but it's basically the stuff you've seen at Bosch. So it starts to look like this, where you have a timeline, and then people go to workspaces, people go to videos. It brings everything together that you need in a transformation. So that's fun. Now, I want to end. I'm going to get David to present something in a second. I want to end with this piece, because this is where the disconnect is largest between leaders and product teams or innovators, the evidence-based approach, which makes sense to you, and you're testing and iterating, you're agile, but it doesn't mean a lot to leaders. There's a disconnect. Remember that decision kind of disconnect? That's what we're going to look at. So we're going to look at this part. How do we get into this? This is one of my all-time favorite quotes from Steve Blank. There's a fine line between vision and hallucination, in particular in Silicon Valley, when there's too much money around. Now, I took a case outside of Silicon Valley, but they were going to compete with Tesla. So Better Place, who's heard of Better Place? Okay, wonderful example where they said, what's the biggest challenge with electric vehicles? It's charging. What if you could drive in, drive out, swap your battery in 3 minutes? That'd be amazing. So the CEO, Shai Agassi, who's going to become CEO of SAP, biggest software company back then, and he was really good at selling ideas and spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are basically a fantasy made explicit, okay? But he got a lot of money, and they went to execute that. How much cash do you think they burnt? It was 850 million, so close to $1 billion. This is pretty good. This was before money was extremely cheap, okay? So 850 million, and then this was a workshop participant from Denmark who sent me this because they scaled in Denmark and Israel, and he said, oh, we have some of these still. This is how they look like. They didn't even have money to take them down again. So since we're into it, I thought, like, who better to quote than Scott Cook, right? For every one of our failures, we had a spreadsheet that looked awesome, okay? We had a house for ants. So what we do now, what you do now, hopefully, is work differently. What strategized, we said, well, we need to get even more specific so we can measure the reduction of risk and uncertainty. And get David to at least say that he can't just come, you have to work a little bit. So I'm going to get David to just explain the case, and I'll bring it back to metrics.
Can I get a mic?
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't want to wreck your tech here.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I might just use your forward keys, maybe. Let's try that. Does that work?
Yeah, that works.
Or if I can sit it down.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so we were thinking about like how to bring this back to this meetup. So I've talked to this meetup a few times. Dan has been gracious enough to invite me as well. And I came to Mark's meetup, or he was here, Mark Tarpening, where he talked about early days Tesla, which I thought was amazing. It was one of my favorite meetups ever. So I really appreciate Dan putting that on. And I was thinking through, wow, he's talking about a lot of early stage experiments that are really tied into what we're writing. And so I reached out to Dan, and we started thinking through, okay, how do we communicate this? And so I've been like sharing this meetup video. I don't know how many YouTube views you have, but we've been keep sharing this story. And so if you think about early stage Tesla, right, they could have been like, oh, build it and they will come. But when we listened to him talk about this, I thought it was amazing to hear about some of the early stage scrappy testing that I didn't even know Tesla did. And so this is Mark. He was gracious enough. We showed the YouTube link. We'll have to share that out as well, Dan, because it was one of my favorite meetups ever. But if you look about what they did early days testing and you go watch that video, which I highly recommend you do, you'll listen to him talk about doing some like early stage boomerang testing, which is like competitive user testing. So we didn't have a lot of licensed EVs in the state of California. Now, today you would say, oh, they're everywhere. But back then, we didn't have a lot of licensed EVs. And so he was going around looking at this one. I think the nickname for this one is like Cheese Louise, because it looks like a cheese wedge. But this idea of, like, they looked like punishment cars. They were like really, like these small, really not like luxury sports cars. And so he didn't just jump off building. He did a lot of competitive user testing. And then you think about next, what they did was kind of a mashup. So they took a Lotus Elise body and they took other components and they kind of mashed it up into an MVP. With my software clients that I coach, they're using like Zaps and Notion tables and landing pages, and they're wiring stuff together. But in hardware, I think this is becoming more common with my hardware companies as well. But we're kind of mashing stuff up to make something that there's a value exchange. Like people can drive this around, they can give feedback on it. So this idea of a mashup, or sometimes they call them Frankensteins, this idea of let's test this, but let's not build it from scratch, try to reinvent everything. Let's try to use existing tech and kind of mash it up together. So there's a video of him explaining this, and I want to go ahead and play that for you all as well.
And by November, we were putting out our battery pack, our drivetrain basically, into a Lotus Elise shell or chassis. And this was to sort of test out, it was called a mule. You take parts from one car and parts from another. It isn't what's going to reproduce, but it was a test bed so that we could test it out. What we learned was that the Lotus Elise, the sort of chassis that we were using, was like a $35,000 sports car. And we knew that our price was going to be more like $100,000. So things that were acceptable in a $35,000 sports car really weren't okay for our market. So we had everyone that we knew, we'd drive up with what looked like a Lotus Elise, and we'd have people get in and out of it and try to turn it on and try to understand what the instrument cluster said and try to get any heat out of the thing or cool or whatever. And we learned a ton.
Yeah, so if you start looking at all this stuff, let's just pause on this a moment. Look at all the stuff, and there was a laundry list of stuff he talked about, but this idea of, well, we learned the doors weren't good enough. I remember he's talked about women had a hard time kind of opening doors and getting in and out of the car. The air conditioning, right? It's not an ICE engine, right? It's electric, and how do we generate enough heat? So it was really amazing to hear firsthand. It's one of the reasons I really love this meetup, to hear about early stage testing of how messy it was. It wasn't like they had a perfect vision of Tesla and just willed it into being. There was a lot of messiness and discipline with regards to testing. So they also tested with landing pages. So that's another way you can test. I think out of the Lean Startup movement, maybe we over-popularized landing pages a bit because I think people jump to landing pages too soon sometimes. But this idea of a landing page, and can we test some of the value propositions, have a call to action? And so if you start looking at Wayback Machine here, again, this is a long time ago, but if you start looking at, you can see the call to action. It's literally just like put in your email, we'll start reaching out to you. And then you think forward, it's like, okay, then can we move to a point where we can do pre-sales? Now, I don't know how you sell 100 Tesla pre-orders at 100K a piece. That's not going to be a talk that I can give. But this idea of we're building directional evidence to say this is worth investing in, and we're trying to close that say-do gap. And by doing so, people pre-ordering, that's one way to close that gap. So when you think about testing, right, I love anytime you can get, you're in such an amazing location here in the Valley. Anytime you can get a successful entrepreneur to talk about the messiness of early days and how them talk about the process of how they went and tried to de-risk that, I think definitely take advantage of that. So yeah, just wanted to share that story. So thanks for inviting me up, Alex. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So I love this example. So I stole it from David and Dan. So that's a good opportunity to show that. So the whole principle here is a series of experiments where you reduce the risk of uncertainty and you invest more and more. So again, it's back to small investments first, which makes total sense for us. But if you're a large company, you want large returns, you don't think of small investments first. So I make the explore exploit drawing and this drawing for senior executives plus the one with Bosch, and they get it. So sometimes I'm the dinner entertainment when they eat, like in a 3-star Michelin restaurant, I draw on an iPad rather than showing slides. Okay, now before we go to evidence-based decisions making and how we can measure, let's compete for the remaining chocolate. Okay.
Reset the score?
No, we do not reset. You are chasing Raul. Okay. So let's see if you can keep it up, Raul. Now you have, you have to give the chocolate back otherwise. Okay, that'd be unfair. Okay, so now questions. Now really we're in your domain around testing, for those of you who do testing. First question, speed matters. Which statement is true, okay? Which statement is true? A great business plan is a prerequisite for a great venture. Large initial investments make it easier to succeed. Good and bad ideas are hard to distinguish early on in the process. Now, if you get this one wrong, you did not listen to me. Okay, so I hope there we go. Very good. So who's this one person? Who's this one person? Come on. You did that just to get me angry. Okay, this one is interesting. So there's a great talk by Vinod Khosla on the internet, on YouTube, where he says, the more money you give a team, the likelier they are to fail. Why? Better place. They're going to build something. Okay, they're going to build it. So, a wonderful example is Quibi. They got $1.7 billion. What do? They bought licenses for content, they built something, and they burnt $1.3 billion in 4 months. Like, that's a record. I don't know anybody who's been that fast, okay? So, do not build something to prove. Now, next one. The last one's a bit harder. This one is still kind of okay. What should most increase your confidence to invest in an innovation project or a product? Large-scale interviews and surveys, a strong spreadsheet with great numbers, experiments that get customers to do something, the opinion of the highest paid person in the room. Now, this one should also be easy for you folks. The last one will be a bit harder. I would expect everybody to get it right. Okay, so here's interesting. Now, we're already getting to this metrics thing. What people say and what people do is not the same strength of evidence. You can talk to 1 million people. It's still what they said. So you want to get people to do something. And this sounds trivial again, but people think, oh, you know, I worked with Colgate. They say, oh, we can do surveys, we can predict everything. Yeah, in execution, but in innovation, you can't. It's just what people say. And people notoriously behave differently than what they say. So the scale of the survey or the interviews doesn't matter. We're going to get to that in a bit. Let's see. Raul is nervous. He's sweating. Okay. Still there, okay? Okay, the last one, Raul, is very hard. Okay? Nervous? That's your target there. Everybody hunt Raul. Here is a little bit of brain gymnastics. So the question is framed in a way that will trip you up. Which statement is wrong? Not correct, but wrong. Hypotheses make the risk of an idea explicit. Business plans really don't matter for innovation products. A product that customers love will always lead to innovation success. It's a bit harder, right? And I framed it so that you have to think. So, this is true. You come up with hypothesis so that you can break down a big thing into smaller pieces you can test. Okay? Because just building something, again, you want to really be clear what you're trying to test. This one, you did not listen to me or you got tripped up by the wrong. This is very wrong, okay? But I think this got you confused. That was on purpose. This one is 100% true. Why? Because you can make a product that people love, but financially, it's not sustainable. It costs you too much to build it. The acquisition costs are too high. Because at the end of the day, you need to make more money from a product than you spend. It's called business model. So it's not that making products that people love is easy, but it's not enough. And I remember here an anecdote with Richard when we were working on value proposition design. I'm not sure if it was you or somebody in the team that wrote a thing, is the value proposition the most important part of the business model? I said, no, it's not, because you can have a great value proposition and still go bankrupt or fail. It's every single one of those blocks. It's 9. Do you need a value proposition? Yeah, sure. But you also need to make more money than you spend. Make sense? Okay, so we don't think business model enough in the product world. And sometimes you can't decide on the business model, but you at least need to understand. Okay, but what you're really interested in is not my blah blah. You're interested in Swiss chocolate. Okay. Ooh, Raul. Got that one wrong? Okay. Whew. Emmanuel just made it. Congratulations. Okay. You do it on purpose so you get the chocolate? Yeah. I think you did it on purpose. Cool. Okay, now, good. Let's finish up and then have some time for questions. So we came up with an evidence-based kind of decision-making thing. So we try to create a simple scorecard so that we can reduce risk and uncertainty. Now, I want you to just quickly discuss for 30 seconds, how do you measure the reduction of risk and uncertainty? Think of your own kind of product practice. How would you measure if you're reducing risk? Not an easy question, right? But we should have an answer, no? So I want you to discuss for 30 seconds, how can you measure if you're reducing risk in the product development process? Okay, let's go, 30 seconds. What do you think? Is it counting the number of hypotheses, the number of experiments you run? Come up with something. Okay, let's go. Or how you do it today. Okay. Any ideas? Any ideas? Any good ideas? Yeah.
Trial to paid ratio.
Trial to paid ratio. So you're looking at one type of experiment. Okay. And then for everything else, like if they have a desire, so you go right to pay. Okay, good.
Willingness to pay.
Willingness to pay. So we can focus on willingness to pay. Could be. Okay, interesting. Anything else? Other ideas? Yeah?
You have to have some way of showing that you know how you would build it.
Okay, so you have to have some way to know, okay, how you build it.
Build it,
Okay.
sell it.
Okay, so build it would be feasibility risk, right? But how do you measure it? Okay, so any ideas? So you're all in the product world. You don't measure if you're reducing risk? No? You just build shit? Well, it's nervous laughing. Yeah, we do.
These are really good product managers.
They don't, yeah, you just get it right? You're all Steve Jobs, right?
Can I suggest something?
Yeah.
It's a variation of the product market fit test. So we ask the customer, how would you feel if you build a product right?
Okay, yeah. Could be one way, maybe.
The customer says, no, I need that. So we know that.
Yeah. So you won't be able to. So two things. We'll stay in this corner, the willingness to pay. Now, okay, if I ask you, are you willing to pay? And you say no. I have no clue why. Don't have the problem, doesn't care, doesn't like the solution, doesn't like the price. So that's, a question, but it doesn't measure, did we reduce risk? It just looks at willingness to pay, but you don't know anything about the rest, right? So we need to break these things down. And one way already is looking at different types of risks, right? We look at feasibility, viability, desirability, okay? Now, we went even further, and we started this thinking when we were working on testing business ideas. What if we could score the strength of evidence? Not all evidence is equal, and we need to look at the evidence for different areas of the business model canvas, okay? So we said, no evidence is a business plan, a spreadsheet, a fantasy made explicit, which sounds trivial to you, but I was working with one of the top 2 food companies, will not mention which one, because it's so ridiculous. He said, Alex, we were working on metrics. I said, Alex, we measure willingness to pay. We know. We have evidence. I said, oh, interesting. Tell me what? We get the teams to make spreadsheets. Hey, that's a fantasy made explicit. And again, do we need spreadsheets? Absolutely, to know how big this could be, but it's a fantasy, so we need to start to create or get evidence that supports the spreadsheet. But it does mean we start with a spreadsheet, but it's a fantasy until proven otherwise. So then, first light evidence is what people tell you. You start to ask them questions. You didn't show them anything yet, okay? That's opinion. Then all the way on the other side, it's real evidence from a real market situation, okay? Now, let's look at this one step at a time. The boomerang was first light evidence, what people say. Then they did mashups. They made it tangible. You could touch the thing, but it's still what people say. Would you buy this? Oh, yeah, love this thing. It's what people say. Well, what if we got people to do something? Very light skin in the game. Email. Doesn't cost you much, but you're not going to give your email if you don't care. So I think we overuse it, like David said. We overuse this experiment. It's great. It's already stronger than what people just say. I remember I used to do these URL tests a lot. So I'd talk to senior leaders, and then I'd send them an email with a link. And if they wouldn't click on the link, I just knew they bluntly lied to me and said, interesting, but they wouldn't care. That's a call to action. Do you make $1 million investments based on that? No. So you go a level further. What if we had a first kind of down payment or letter of agreement, more skin in the game? Or the reputation of a person. If they put their reputation on the line, that's not financial. So that doesn't always mean financial. It means skin in the game. There are different ways of putting skin in the game. And the last one is, Nestle. The last one wasn't the case for Tesla. They didn't do a last one. But here would be Nestle putting a yogurt in one store. That's a real market evidence from one store. You don't know about scale yet, but you know in that particular location. Make sense? Okay, so this is very powerful because you can get a little bit more granularity and you start to measure this stuff. Now, you bring this all together. So when we train leaders to go onto these growth boards, and same for products, we get them to score every aspect of the business model canvas. Desirability, these blocks, show me evidence for customer jobs, pains, and gains. Show me evidence for the value proposition that they care. Feasibility, show me evidence. Viability, show me evidence. Okay, we have one, adaptability, which is all about the context, legal and regulatory environment, competition, etc. That's very powerful. Now, you also remember with Bosch, they didn't ask for everything right away, because leaders always want you to prove everything right away after 3 months. Not possible. So you need to tell them, what do we get in discovery? In discovery, we only get evidence for customer jobs, pains, and gains, maybe some willingness to pay. And we would say, we get more granular. What level of evidence? Yeah, maybe for customers, level 3, 4. Harder, more is very hard in 3 months. Again, depends if you're working 100% on this and you're a startup, you get further. Make sense? Next phase, we get strong evidence, really strong evidence for customers, really strong evidence for the value proposition, and strong evidence for willingness to pay. And then in acceleration, pre-scaling, we have evidence for everything. Then we scale. That's extremely powerful. So now we just made it objective as you could be. It's super powerful. Very simple, super powerful, okay? So bringing that together, how it started out is when, this is where the disconnect, you can kill the disconnect. You train leaders to be on growth boards to make decisions like this. You train teams to bring the right evidence to the table at the right moment, and you start to kill the projects that should get killed, and you have really strong resource allocation. Like normally in the VC world, that works pretty well. I'm saying normally because there are examples like FTX and so on. They didn't really work out that way. That was a joke. You can laugh. It's like, no, not so good. Doesn't matter. Okay, yeah, I should stop with the jokes. But this is very, very powerful. And I come to it from the business model world. But since I work together with Emergent and they invested in us, I really understand how they're coming together. We do not have these kind of systems yet in most companies. We're getting there, but they're very informal. That's a good start. But today, we need to get better at this so we can do it at scale. So I like, when I go in a company, I'd like to see this with the flexibility and speed of a startup, but with the rigor in terms of process and metrics of a large corporation. Because you can't do this kind of crazy startup thing within a large corporation. Make sense? So I'll end there with the last piece of disconnect, just showing what I look at. I have 3 things I look at to see if a company can innovate. So we're a bit back up above product. If the leaders spend 40% of their time on innovation, you'll get innovation. If the CEO spends less than 5% of their time on innovation, you will not get innovation. You'll get efficiency innovation, but no great new products, no business models. Organizational design, if you do not have an innovation leader with power, working 100% on this topic and reporting to the CEO, you will not get innovation. It's rarely a money problem, it's a power problem. And the last one, you need to be able to kill 9 out of 10 ideas. 9 out of 10 ideas. If you have a check on all of these, you'll get innovation at scale. If you have none of these, you should probably change your job. Was also a joke, but a very sad one. Good. At least I got you to laugh a little bit before ending. So I think we still have time for Q&A. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Alex. So for Q&A, we definitely have to have a mic. So we have people who can run a mic around. So if you want to have a question, raise your hand, but wait till you have a mic, and they'll tell you what order you're going to be in.
You can ask David, of course, as well.
Yeah.
We have our expert on testing. Yeah. I'll let them choose.
Go ahead.
That way I don't have to say. Over there after.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Alex.
go ahead.
So 2 related questions. When it comes to adopting this framework within large organizations,
yes.
Do you expect or do you recommend kind of a an annual innovation conference that kicks this off, or is this an ongoing thing? And two, do you expect, or again, do you recommend teams, like different teams that are working on the explore phase versus the actual execution in the exploit phase? So,
okay, yeah. Maybe you're going to have to repeat the second one when I answer the first one, as I'll forget. Yeah. So what was the first one?
Cadence of such.
So I hate to start with it depends. Depending on the innovation culture you have, you want to start differently. So when there's zero innovation culture, you don't want to start big. You might want to start with one kind of product area or a division. So you start smaller. Now, sometimes when we have innovation leaders or product leaders coming to us, but they don't yet have the buy-in from management, we say, get started with these sprints. Do like 5 to 10 projects and then use the funnel. And we know you're going to fail because there are too many blockers in the company. But here's what you're going to have. You're not going to get fired. Well, maybe, but that's the risk you want to take if you're in innovation. You will have evidence to show what's not working. So you can talk to leaders and say, here's what's blocking this. So within 3 months, with a discovery sprint like that, you can already show, hey, this is what the teams came up with, and they won't be able to go on, but you can already show the blockers. So you basically produce evidence of what's working and not working in terms of innovation culture. This is a great way to start. If you have a leader who's fully bought in, I do like the idea of starting with a big bang, but then here's the thing. You have to make sure that there's a very clear process everywhere. So remember I was joking about these dinners I do with senior leaders. So I had this company, not huge, 7,000 people, and you had the CEO over here, long table. I was over here with a whiteboard drawing. And you have all his execs here. And then after I gave a little bit of the talk, he said, Alex, I get it. I need to infect everybody with the innovation virus. I said, gee, what did I do wrong? I said, no. You do not need to infect anybody with anything. What you really want is to build a visible, transparent system of how this works so that the innovators know where to go to start their ideas. But also, you'll kill the projects based on very clear metrics. That works. Innovators will innovate. I didn't believe this first. I always thought, we need incentives. No, you just need to tear down the walls and innovators will innovate. So a lot of you in here are innovators and you have so many blockers. You take those away, innovators will innovate. There is a point when somebody built $1 billion business, you might want to think of rewarding them differently than just with a bonus or a promotion. But at the beginning, it's actually very easy. Afterwards, you need to think incentives, and nobody's really figured that out. Cisco tried, doesn't really work. But you want to start with making a transparent system. So the event is dangerous if you haven't built that transparent system. So don't do an event without the transparent system. Make sense? Okay. We had a microphone over there. Yeah.
Right. It seemed like Bosch was doing everything right, or most things right. Can you share what caused them to start on this process? What caused them to start on the innovation process? What challenge they faced? And maybe another couple of examples of companies that did that.
Yeah, so Bosch did not do everything right. And I won't get into too much transparency of what they did wrong, but they were right with the vehicle. But that vehicle was not embedded in a very strong and strategic way. So back to the transparent system, teams kind of know where to go there, but then there was the last phase was missing, and they had innovation vehicles competing. But the reason they started with that is that they did realize, how Uwe said, they needed to work on business model innovation. They were actually really good at product innovation, but that you can't grow at a certain stage. You just can't grow from products anymore. So you have to move to new business models, and that was the board of directors. Yeah. And I do actually think, so one of the things is I tried to get boards to hire the right CEOs, because the CEO is not the boss. The CEOs, well, in Silicon Valley you have entrepreneurs who are still the bosses, right? But in most cases, CEOs are hired guns, and the board of directors in publicly listed companies often hire managerial CEOs. This would be actually a good book, The Entrepreneurial CEO. I think you said there was already a book on that topic. I don't remember. Richard knows, if you want book advice, Richard knows every single business book on the planet. But the managerial CEO is not good enough anymore. And what's cool, if you look at Silicon Valley, is you do have a lot of founder CEOs. You love them or hate them, but they really, continuously innovate. So for a long time, I didn't believe managerial CEOs could do this. And then I got to know Bracken Darrell, who managed Logitech, and he did that really well before he left. So it can be done. And since you asked for an example, I'll quickly show you one. It's my favorite example. Not always good to show Chinese companies these days in the US or the Western world, but take away the principles, right? And it's not a rogue company, but yeah, we just don't like China these days. So from a geopolitical perspective. So Ping An was a company that was very traditional, not a tech company. They were in banking and insurance. Super conservative industry. They grew under the founder, Peter Ma, but he said, if we don't become a tech company, we will die. Okay? Who spoke like that all the time? We will die. Jeff Bezos used that line a lot while they were #1 company. We're going to die. So in this case, they said, we are going to invest in these technologies to improve our existing businesses, but we will also, and this is the big idea, we will invest in completely new arenas and build internet companies. So you have a banking and insurance conglomerate that became a technology company because they constantly reinvested their profits right back into exploration. And they did this across the board. And in particular, I'm going to focus on AI. They did this for efficiency innovation. This is a bit scary. Loan applications where they would look at your face and then decide based on your facial expression if you're lying or not. But you know what? It actually works. It's really scary, but it works. And it's not surprising this is coming out of China. That was a very bad stereotypical joke, but they were really good at doing this, and it's happening in the US as well. Then you have Ping An Good Doctor, an insurance company built the biggest internet platform, health platform on the planet, 400 million users. And one of the things is Ask Bob. So this is pre-Chat GPT, doing this for doctors. 1.2 million Chinese doctors use this. That's a third of the doctor population in China, serving 400 million users. Think of it. Okay? So this was an AI company before AI became popular in the mainstream. And then here's where it gets really interesting. They said, we're going to create disruptive business models. So with Ping An One Connect, they said, we could use AI and all this technology for our bank, but their bank was only 3% of the market. They said, what if we were more intelligent? We're going to offer our world-class AI capabilities to banks throughout Asia. Market just exploded. But what's the challenge here from a management perspective? They just said, we're going to self-disrupt. We're going to cannibalize our own business. And they did it. And that helped them grow. So really powerful. And what's interesting here is they did have this willingness to fail. So they explored things like One Connect, they persevered, they transferred that and scaled that, right? Like the drawing I did at the beginning. Same for Ping An Good Doctor, became a really big company. But they also failed. Like they had secondhand car platform, real estate platform. They killed them. Based on what they learned, they made an acquisition in Australia. But when Peter Ma hired Jessica Tan, who built this, he said, Jessica, you are going to fail. Imagine you start your job and your boss tells you you're going to fail. What he meant is take risk, play. And with all those failures, some are going to win. And that's how they actually built this company, going from top 500 to top 20, 30. Now in 2023, they dropped a bit. They're at 30, 32 or something like that. But it's extremely powerful how they grew because of the culture they built. This is all of what we just talked about. So this is a much better example than Bosch, but we don't have the same level of detail, for example, on the portfolio stuff. So Jessica Tan really did a phenomenal job. She just retired from Ping An. She's now on the board of directors. She was co-CEO. Remember I showed you power? So Jessica Tan was co-CEO, and Peter Ma became chairman. And her only task was to build new companies. So what's lacking in innovation is power. Okay, so it needs to be either the CEO or somebody who's 100%. So a wonderful example. Very long answer, but I do think we never see this example. Super powerful. Okay. Yes.
Hi, Alex. This was great. Thank you so much. So my question is more of a, I'm seeking advice. So what is
but don't listen to me.
I'll think whether to listen or not based on your answer.
That's a great answer. Come on, tell me, and then I'll decide. Good.
Yeah, so what is your advice, suggestion for a product manager who is in a growth stage startup? How can the product manager help this company succeed? Think of the situation where the company is about maybe 200, 300 employees having very good traction, but it is stuck with this problem where it has early employees who are in the explore, ideate phase, and they have new employees who are hired to give the structure, processes, more of a corporate building structure. So what or how should the product manager play in this dynamic to help the company succeed?
Okay, so I'm not going to give you an answer because you have people who are way more appropriate to answer the specific product, leader, product manager question, so I can't answer that. You have experience here. So anybody who has an answer, you go and talk. What was your name?
Jyotsna.
You talk to Jyotsna after. It was close. Sorry. But what I can give you is the systems question. So is actually, and we went through exactly this kind of stuff. When you start, is a messy process, and the last thing you want is titles. So Steve Blank has this interesting saying where, like, when you start your 3, 5, 10 people, you don't need titles. You just need to get shit done and get closer to product market fit. And I'd say it's not just product market fit. You need to actually find business model fit. Okay, so product market fit, business model fit. But then there is a moment where you need to start to get a little bit more structured. You shouldn't get too messy, too structured, because then you overdo it. And many of you have been through these stages, right? I haven't, so I made all the mistakes you can make going through that. But we got more and more structured. So I think figuring out the right level of structure to bring in and doing it in the most diplomatic of all ways, understanding where they are coming from, the people, their jobs, pains, and gains, I would apply the value proposition canvas to people. So when I talk to senior leaders, guess what? I have in my mind their jobs, pains, and gains, and I will never talk about lean startup or testing. They don't understand those words. In your context, look at the people you're dealing with and understand deep down their jobs, pains, and gains, and then use that to start to bring in new structure. Because if it doesn't connect to their jobs, pains, and gains, you're dead. I don't believe you can convince anybody of anything, but you can change their frame of mind by understanding that. Make sense? Now, sometimes, and I had to learn this, I always thought, when you build a company, it's actually failure when people leave. I thought that was, and that was the most stupidest thing that I could ever think. So I kept people for too long. You grow, you change. And for many of you, this might be clear because you've been in several companies seeing this. I wasn't. But now I understand I want the right people for the right phase. So sometimes you actually need to have these tough conversations and just, talk to people and say, look, this is just not appropriate anymore. And you need to have these conversations. Do you see what I mean? Like they're in they like this environment that was messy and no process, but there's a moment that dies. You need to get to these kind of things and measure risk and uncertainty. So helping them in that transition can be very powerful. Okay, I made up an answer based on some of the stuff I know, but a lot of the product management stuff you should, But that's actually, that tool is underused. Don't use it just for product. I use it for talks. I use it for my conversations with senior leaders. It's extremely powerful. Books. I use it for books.
No, when I'm talking with an author.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everywhere, right? Cool.
All right, we got some Zoom questions real quick.
Okay, and if you're tired of listening to me, do not hesitate to vote with your feet. I will not take it personally.
I think we have just a couple questions left, and then we'll wrap it, and then people can hang out. Okay. Carla Vilches says, what would Alex recommend to do if you have the data and evidence, share the data with stakeholders to discard ideas, but they just push on doing the features that were written on the business case?
Well, so I had the opportunity to work quite a bit with Marshall Goldsmith. I don't know if you know Marshall Goldsmith. He's the #1 leadership coach on the planet. He worked with Alan Mulally, who turned around Ford from $17 billion loss-making company to profit. And he worked with animals like that. He'd say, well, when it's not in your decision-making power, let it go. Let it go. So you can try, you can convince. Again, I don't believe you can convince people of anything. You can try to change their frame. But if it's not in your power to make the decisions and you can't change their frame, let it go and probably change the job.
Yeah. Good. All right. And then the next one is from Namrata. Who should sit on growth boards of companies so that decisions have legitimacy and are not overruled by people more senior?
Okay, so that's the first part made me remember that I didn't answer your second question. So like, whoa, okay. But the second part, yeah, we'll see. So the whole idea of growth boards is you need to strategically think who needs to be on those growth boards for ideas to be able to scale. So companies usually fail at 2 points. They don't invest in enough ideas. They select too early. That's the big one. Now, when they get that, they are not able to scale. And that's often because there's internal antibodies. So my colleague Tendai, also an author, great books, he likes to say, homeless ideas remain homeless. So you need to build a landing pad for those ideas to grow into the core business. So those are the people you want on the growth board. Those who can eliminate the obstacles, the blockers. And generally it's those with the power. But that's the key thing of growth boards, okay? So that was the first part. Then to your question you had is teams over here testing and then teams over here executing does not work. Handovers do not work. Have you ever seen a startup where the CEO said, oh, this phase is over, let me hand over? Now, VCs do that. They just fire the CEO, and that does not always end very well. Now, it does mean sometimes you need to change the team, you grow the team, but I have not seen handovers work really well. Innovation departments who have great ideas and bring all the evidence up, and then bring it to a business unit. You know what the business unit says? No, thank you, we have stuff to do. Or at Medtronic at one point, they took the pieces it's like they took the cow, they cut out the pieces they wanted, and they killed it. So the innovative business model was gone. Are you laughing because you were there? Yeah, okay. So more stories to tell. See, I hope you didn't sign anything. But so that doesn't work. But the landing pad is the big one. And sometimes you need to have a CEO who's willing to create new P&Ls. So that's at Amazon, that was powerful when they built Amazon Web Services. That doesn't fit anybody's landing pad. They had to build a new business, right? So you have to be willing to create a new P&L, which sounds innocent, not always the case. We had another question somewhere here. Somebody had the microphone. Okay.
Another question?
I think we covered.
People are
I was just going to ask about
where
do you've been talking about innovation centers, you've been talking about cultural transparency.
Yeah.
Where does hackathon come into this?
Hackathons.
Like hackathon days and just coming up with ideas.
You know, I just had 2 weeks ago, I gave all this talk to a leader at a very large Swiss company. And at the end, she says, yeah, I want to do hackathons. And I thought, oh, geez, did you listen to me? Now, I changed my opinion on hackathons. So I used to think hackathons are the purest form of innovation theater. Okay? Not as bad as idea competitions, but almost. Just a little bit above. But now I changed my opinion drastically. But it stays innovation theater if you don't have anything to capture that. So you still need that bigger system, and then hackathons can be super powerful. But the most hackathons I've seen are innovation theater that happen. And guess what? After you have teams that are super excited, great idea, they got first evidence, where do I go? Where do I go? So it's not built in. So we like to build a portfolio of programs where everything is connected. You have leadership programs to help them do evidence-based investments. You have hackathons to get things going. Then they go into a different vehicle. It's not always thought through. That's the bottom layer. In the top layer, and I don't know how this is here with the companies you're in, we have corporate venture capital here. We have mergers and acquisitions here. Then we have open innovation here working with universities and maybe startups. And here we have an innovation team. And they're all in their corners wasting money. Innovation theater at its best. Now, Ping An does all of those things, but they have one strategy that integrates everything. So that's where companies are starting to get a little bit more educated, integrating these. That's nice. Up here, product management kind of down here, but these things all fit together. And now, leaders are not always educated on how to bring all these things together. M&A, they know how to do, most of them, so that's all they do. And it's not bad, but it's one tool. Okay, I think we're all exhausted, right? I'm looking at your faces like, when is this guy going to stop talking? And I'm jet lagged, you're not.
Yeah. All right, well, let's give Alex one walk of applause here. Thank you so much, Alex. That was awesome. Appreciate it.